Adjunct Professor Moran, Macroeconomics 111. We're now going to discuss shifts in aggregate supply. We discussed one aggregate supply curve in the prior lesson. That's when the amount of resources are fixed. It's the extent to which you use your resources that moves you along one aggregate supply curve. Either when you idle resources, your factory becomes more productive because you're idling the least productive resources first, or as you increase output and hire less and less qualified workers and machines, for example, productivity falls. And when productivity falls, average costs rise. You have to pass those increased costs along to consumers in the form of higher prices. But there are shifts in aggregate supply as well as you rise along one. And those shifts are going to occur because of changes in costs. Anything that affects the underlying profitability of the business, apart from changes in productivity based on current technology, will shift the aggregate supply curve. These things can be quite lengthy if you list them, but they basically add up to anything that changes costs. So a shift in aggregate supply, not a ride along one aggregate supply curve, results from a change in the price of the factors of production. Higher wages, lower wages, increased capital equipment costs, changes in productivity. So technology always increases productivity, because if it's not useful, it's not called technology. Taxes and subsidies on businesses by government, and regulations. An increase in regulations will increase business costs at any one level of output, resulting in a decrease in aggregate supply. Less regulations will reduce business costs and increase output at any one price level. So we're talking now about changes in the short-run aggregate supply curve. This is a short-run average supply curve. In text, it's frequently shown only in the intermediate range. I'm showing the horizontal and vertical ranges as well. GDP real. You have to put price level here because you're putting price level here. If you allow price levels to change, you don't know whether that's nominal or real GDP. And so it's important to adjust and tell the viewer that's real output. It's already been adjusted for change in price level. Aggregate supply is the amount of real output businesses are willing to produce at different price levels. There's a horizontal range where output can increase with no change in price level. An intermediate range where an increase in output will be matched with a change in the price level. And a vertical range where an attempt to increase output by one company will be met with a decrease in output by another company, and only an increase in price level will result. All right. So, if underlying business profitability improves, if productivity goes up, new equipment, for example, is invented, there's better technology, or if business costs go down, regulations go down, businesses don't have to pay for as much anti-pollution equipment, for example, or taxes go down. New technology results in increases in productivity. Workers agree to work for less money. Then the aggregate supply curve will shift to the right. Don't think up and down, it's left and right, because the numbers on the GDP axis are moving to the right, and since they're larger, this is an increase. So full employment would be here at one time, and full employment might result at another time. Increases in aggregate supply will result in more output and less inflation. Also, get used to reading it the other way. Not only when average supply increases at any one price level, more output would be made. But any one level of output, a lower price level will exist. There'll be less inflation in the market. So everybody gets used to reading graphs one way. Be prepared for, say, a multiple choice question that asks you to read it the other way. A decrease in aggregate supply is a shift to the left. This is a supply shock. This would result in something called cost push inflation. There's less output. We'll call this 3. There's less output and a higher price level results. That's a decrease in aggregate supply caused by an increase in government regulations negatively impacting business costs, higher taxes, a decrease in overall productivity, and an increase in the price of the factors of production.